Is fantasy limited to the confines of imagination? This is the first question Metaphor ReFantazio asks us at the beginning of the game. But I have a better question for them. If it looks like an anime, sounds like an anime, and talks like an anime, should we call it a video game? What's up everyone, AllSoul here, and in this video, we're going to take a look at Metaphor ReFantazio. This spot marks my grave.
But you may rest here too, if you like.
The game begins with the death of King of Euchronia. We start our journey as a messenger who's sent to find a mercenary named Grius. To do this, we must first enlist to the army and try to find our guy. In the enlistment camp, we meet the second character, Strohl, who is of noble descent. Our first march as a platoon gets interrupted by a monster in a fort. We find out they call the monster a human, so the game obviously happens in the future. The human absolutely crushes the platoon until only we two survive. Then a sudden hand of God appears from the skies and gives our character a magical power that turns him into a monster that looks like if Griffith and Eva Unit 1 had a child. Talk about Deus Ex Machina. So we must be special or something that this power was granted specifically to us. Nope. On our way back, we get into trouble in a fight, and yet another hand of God comes to give a similar magical power to Strohl and later on to Grius. So we are not that special, are we? The story of Metaphor revolves around the duality of reality and fantasy with the premise of equality and racism. The main character reads a book about a fictional world, our world, that in it, everyone lives together in harmony as a sole nation, while the real world of the game is burning in people's prejudice. He wishes to live in this metaphorical utopia, or make his own world as such. The premise of Metaphor ReFantazio is great, but when it comes to the plot, I think lots of mechanics doesn't work here. The characters' motivations seem shallow. The events of the story are unjustified or illogical. I guess what I'm trying to say is that ReFantazio's story works in the great scheme of things, but not in focused details. Remember those pictures that look like Obama from far away, but as you get closer, you see it's actually made of 1,000 pictures of, doesn't matter what were the pictures. I'm just saying that if you don't zoom in, Metaphor's story looks decent. At this point I must inform you that I never played any of the Persona games before, and because of that, I have the benefit of looking at this as its own game and not make any comparisons. But turns out, there are some disadvantages as well, which we'll get to in a second. The gameplay of Metaphor ReFantazio is a combination of press turn system for battles, real-time combat for exploration, and visual novel for narration. Though I've played lots of turn-based games, I've never did a press turn. It was unusual and weird at the beginning, where I tried to see the difference between press turn and simple turn-based. I was almost convinced that I didn't like this, but turns out those differences are all that matter. When I got the hang of it, the whole experience changed for me. Press turn is fun and enjoying, with a wider spectrum of different tactics. Like many turn-based games, the difficulty balance of Metaphor is broken. It starts way too easy that you can win multiple battles by using only one finger and one button, but after a few hours, it gets serious and you need to sit straight now, until to the point when the fight becomes a nightmare. As I said, this happens for almost every turn-based game, so we can let it slide. As for the conversation system, I felt like I was left out, like I'm not present in this circle. Only a few times throughout the conversation I was asked to share my opinion, and the dialogue options don't have any weight. Most of them are simple yeah, or I see, or alright. What's worse is that some choices don't even make a difference. Like I don't even have a choice. It reminds me of this moment in World of Goo 1, where your options to answer the question are yes and okay. One thing that really annoys me in this game is the endless amount of interruptions to the gameplay. Every 10 seconds, either a guide will pop up or an anime cutscene starts, or we go back to the map where the characters will discuss about a freaking empty road for 5 minutes straight. If we think of gameplay interruptions as a spectrum with one side being Dark Souls as sheer gameplay that you can't even pause the game, and the other side being Metal Gear Solid as a straight up movie, Metaphor leans heavily towards Metal Gear. Now about the visuals of this game, Metaphor uses a 3D anime style which is absolutely bizarre. To this point, I was being very respectful towards this game, but now I'm gonna go all out salty. First of all, the different visual elements of Metaphor don't fit each other. It's like if you wore a pink shirt and red boots with yellow hat. Each one of these look good by itself, but don't go with the others. That's the problem with Metaphor. The surroundings look amazing. The animations are fire. The characters look not bad. We'll get to that in a second. But as I said, they don't fit together. They don't blend in. That leads us to my second problem with this design. Light source. Where is it? Why is the sky shining in a dark cave? Why does it seem like these people are running under big spotlights? I'm sure many of you are racing to the comments to tell me that this is a style, but no, it's distasteful and ugly. Ugly isn't a style. That's my message today. Ugly isn't a style. My last problem is with the character design. In Attack on Titan, Hajime Isayama created two different facial features to separate the two races of Eldian and Marlian. You can distinguish them by one glance. This one's an Eldian, this one's a Marlian. Get out of the way, horse. This one's an Eldian. In Metaphor, they decided to go with a different approach. After hours of studies on different cultures, races and religions, designing and redesigning every character, talking to ancient gods to see how were we created, they decided to make them fairies. Each race has a different bunny ears or horns or something on their heads. That makes sense. Why be racist towards skin color where you can be racist towards bunny ears? But it doesn't end here. The clothing department of Euchronia should be in jail. Why does the main character's clothes looks like a substitute teacher's? Why does this guy have horns on his shoulders? I talked about if this is a game or an anime. Well, the anime cutscenes are endless and still from the gameplay, but there's a reason behind them being there. The devs wanted to give our eyes a rest from all these hideous, terrible designs with all of these beautiful anime cutscenes. And I'm not being sarcastic, they really are a sight for our sore eyes. The HUD design of Metaphor is GOAT, and I love its sound effects, which leads us to the final chapter. The music of Metaphor is so great. It's unique, and if you get stuck in one area for hours, it doesn't lose its edge. Of course, this is necessary for all the turn-based games. Like a sane human being, I chose the Japanese voices, and they were acceptable. Don't know about the English version though. The sound effects are also great. Sometimes it gets too crowded, but it doesn't matter that much anyway. Now comes the real question. Should you buy it? I'm gonna say yes. But be aware, Metaphor has a delicate difficulty balance, and grinding too much will result in overpower. And you don't want to get overpowered, right? Of course not, because you have watched my last video, The Perils of Overpower, and if you haven't yet, you're going to hit this link from above and watch it right now. Here are my ratings to each aspect of the game, which gives us the total number of 8.2. If you enjoyed, do some stuff with these buttons, and until we meet again,
be safe, friend. Don't you dare go hollow.